Three, two, one.
Good evening and welcome to the Monday, December 12th, 2022 open session meeting for the Kent County Public Schools Board of Education. This meeting is now open. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda as presented. The administration is recommending the approval of this agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Dr. Costa has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Sullivan. Any further comments or questions, concerns? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is to move to closed session. The Kent County Public Schools Board of Education members, this board, Dr. Karen Couch, the superintendent, Mr. Dan Hushin, supervisor of human resources, Adam Constas, legal counsel, and Gail Manley, executive assistant to the superintendent, will move to closed session under General Provisions Article 3-305B, Section 1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, as well as any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Section 7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice. And Section 8, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. Do we have a motion to move into closed session?
I motion that we move into closed session.
We have a motion by Ms. McGee. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Sullivan. Any further comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. We will be moving into closed session and will return at approximately 6:30 p.m. Monday, December 12th, 2022, open session meeting for the Kent County Public Schools Board of Education. The first item on the agenda is to report on closed session. The Kent County Public Schools Board of Education members, this board, Dr. Karen Couch, the superintendent, Mr. Dan Hushin, supervisor of human resources, Adam Constas, legal counsel, and Gail Manley, executive assistant to the superintendent, met in closed session under General Provisions Article 3-305B, Section 1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, as well as any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Section 7 was to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice, and Section 8, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. This session was for information and discussion purposes only. No action was taken. Personnel actions will be voted upon by this board at the end of the superintendent's report this evening. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Wallace, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the November 14th, 2022 open session meeting. The administration is recommending approval of the minutes as presented from November 14th, 2022, the open session meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes from the November 14th, 2022 open session meeting.
Mr. Johnson has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Sullivan. Any comments or questions, concerns? Hearing none, we'll call for the board vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition. Mr. Wallace, as a student member of the board, your vote?
Yes, I
We
approve.
have an aye there as well. The motion passes as presented. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the November 29th, 2022 open session meeting. The administration is recommending approval of the minutes as presented from the November 29th, 2022 open session meeting. Do we have a motion to do so?
I move we approve the minutes of the November 29 special session.
Ms. McGee has the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Johnson. Any further comments or questions, concerns? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition. Mr. Wallace, your vote?
I vote yes.
It's a yes as well. The motion passes as presented. Thank you, everyone. The next item on the agenda is public participation. As Ms. Gale is walking up, I will read the public participation rules. Speakers should limit their comments to 3 minutes. Comments about the actions or statements of individual staff members are not appropriate for public comments and should be referred to the superintendent of schools or processed through available channels. If submitting written testimony, speakers are requested to provide a copy to the president. Please remember that this is an opportunity for the community to address their comments to the board. It is not an opportunity for dialogue. If you have any questions that need an answer, please contact the superintendent or write a letter to the Board of Education, and a response will be sent back to you. I will be timing the comment periods for 3 minutes. At 30 seconds, I will advise you that you have 30 seconds left, and I will note that if I'm adjusting the timer and you hear the beeps, that doesn't necessarily mean that your time starts. It will start when you begin. The first person that we have up is Judy O'Brien.
Thank you. And I apologize for reading from my email. It's easier this way to stay on target. Earlier today, I emailed the board to say thank you for your continued service to our community. These are really not easy times to be in public service, as nationally organized, fringe movements have begun to target local politics and in particular school boards. At the November 14, 2022 school board meeting, a community member read a scripted complaint about a library book in the Kent County High School library, claiming that our schools are indoctrinating students with inappropriate material and ignoring academic subjects. I say the comments were scripted not because she read them, but because I found nearly identical content posted on a website created by individuals with no background in education, literacy, or child development. The content was posted merely for people to use for book protests. These sites even highlight which passages from targeted books people should use in challenging those books. After rewatching the meeting, I wanted to write a letter of support to you as you navigate our current divisive and often hostile political climate. I also wanted to make sure you hear from community members who do not believe that school boards and teachers' unions are attempting to inflict an evil agenda on our schools. The community member spoke about a book she found objectionable on the shelves of the Kent County High School library and proceeded to read a passage from the book. In my original draft of this email to you, I went on to tell you that I have read the book and to argue that the community member mischaracterized the scene in the book that she presented aloud as pornographic. But then I stopped. What would I achieve by defending just this book? After all, it's not just this book that will be attacked. Even if I were to successfully defend this one book, another book will be targeted after that. To my knowledge, the book in question is not assigned reading as part of any curriculum in Kent County. The community member, however, appears to conflate library books with assigned reading, maybe in an attempt to muddy the waters. It's just a book on the shelf in the library. It's available to whomever wants to read it. It's also available to be ignored by anybody who does not wish to read it. So the real issue is not this particular book. It's the larger issue of book banning. An American Library Association
30
survey
seconds.
from March of this year found that a large majority of voters oppose book banning efforts. There was no single demographic or political affiliation that supported book bans. This appears to be a rare issue on which voters and parents of all stripes are in agreement. We trust librarians. Among voters in general and parents in particular, the overwhelming majority of parents, 3 in 4, hold librarians in high regard, think that they make good decisions about their collections, and that their collections represent a variety of viewpoints.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. The next speaker is Rebecca Harris-Smith.
I have Judy's email, so I will continue. Of course, the community member is entitled to her opinion and has the right to state it publicly. However, most voters agree that while parents have the right to set rules for their own children, they do not have the right to police the content available to other parents' children. I felt this was important that you hear from someone in the 76% of voters that do trust public school librarians to curate the content in our public school libraries. You heard as much in November when Kent County voters made clear that we do not support candidates who support book banning. And I would like to go on with my own messaging. First, I want to thank Wendy Costa and Nigel Johnson for your years of service. I think that public service is often a thankless job, so I'm here to say thank you. And then my next point is I have a high schooler who aged out of Radcliffe, grade where he was enrolled from 4th grade through 8th grade. And we weren't sure what we were going to do with him, and so we decided to take a leap and try the Kent Blended Learning Academy. And I couldn't be happier. I'm so glad that we have access to this program, and it's working so well with his IEP, and his teachers are amazing and wonderful. So thank you. I'm so glad that we have access to that, and it is, I'm here to say it's awesome, and it's working well for us. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jody Bortz.
Hello, and thank you to the board for hearing us tonight. I just wanted to speak in support of Kent County Public Schools. I am a full-time teacher now, but I haven't always been. I came to the district as a parent and eventually became an advocate. And when I was an advocate for our schools, I thought I knew, but now that I'm a teacher, I really know that we have some of the best staff that you could possibly find. And when I hear people in the public saying derogatory things about us, I feel compelled to come and speak up, because I would not have joined the ranks if I thought that these were people who were, that my colleagues were people who were doing anything other than doing the best possible job they could to educate and care for our community's children. So I just wanted to share with you that thought, that we've been hearing some really negative things about teachers and indoctrination, and all I see when I walk in the doors every day is a staff full of people who are caring for our kids and doing the best they can for every child in our school. And I love what I'm doing, and I am so proud to be among those that are doing it. So also thank you to Navik and Dr. Costa. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Marty, and if I mispronounce your last name, I do apologize. Studell? Steedley, I'm sorry. Please.
We're going to go together. We're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I'd like to, if I could have Marty go first. You can come up, absolutely, but just 3 minutes and then 3 minutes. Thank you very much. I appreciate your understanding.
I'd also like to thank you all for your service. As a former teacher, I know what is involved in serving a school community. My name is Marty Steedley. I'm a proud Kent County parent. Just moved here in October, and my one stipulation was that we would be in Kent County public school system so that my kids could go to Kent County schools. And I'd also like to introduce my son, Jean Michael Ananiadis.
Oh, I thought you meant me.
And David Quinn as well. But introducing Jean Michael, as he is an aspiring Kent County high school tennis player and is presently going to Garnett. He's particularly excited if the middle school ends up close to the high school, and if we get new, safe, playable courts, that maybe he'll have access, along with other middle schoolers, to the high school courts. So today we are here to say that we're really excited about the opportunity to have safe high school tennis courts. As you can see from the pictures, there's a lot of cracks on the courts that really make them unsafe and presents a liability issue.
It's embarrassing.
And it is embarrassing. And as a coach in Ohio, I have to say, it reminded me of courts that my team played at, and as badly as we felt for the host team having to have these courts next to beautiful other athletic facilities, I just couldn't bring my kids back to those courts because I was worried that they might get hurt. So Jean Michael and I, sorry for our appearance, we're coming from playing tennis with a great group of Kent County kids. As we speak, there's Kent County middle schoolers and high schoolers playing. We just threw these clinics together, having just come here in October, and we have great participation. So I feel like I owe it to Jean Michael, to all these kids who are in these clinics, and anyone who aspires to gain skills in the lifelong sport of tennis, to speak up in support of safe courts. And Kent County Tennis
30 seconds.
Has had greatness in their past. I feel they'll have it in the future, but also I want an opportunity for those willing to work at tennis to play on safe tennis courts. So for me, the bottom line is I'm seeing kids care about tennis, and I care about kids. So I think we as an opportunity, we have an opportunity as a community to show the kids that we care. Doesn't that mean I have 10 seconds?
No, that's 3 minutes. Thank you. I would ask David Quinn to thank you.
I don't have a 3-minute talk planned because I knew Marty was going to say all the salient points. I do want Jean Michael to say what you thought the pictures represented. Do you remember?
I'll speak from. He thought it was a botanical garden and not safe tennis courts.
And I was really thinking that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and if you all could see the pictures that are being passed around of the tennis courts, you'd understand. I mean, I like Wimbledon as much as the next person, but it shouldn't be coming out of a cement court, you know, so. And Marty, I don't know if you mentioned what your husband does?
So my husband is the tennis coach at Washington College.
Yeah, so we have a really, really good community connection going on here now. And it does start at the middle school, who has the nice 3 courts that they got. How many years ago was that?
I think it was about 4.
Okay, yeah. And they're great. I was thinking, you know, I was hoping the last couple of years that maybe we could have a few matches over there, but that's a transportation issue and everything else going on. But, and I know that Jay Jacobs is, you know, trying to help us out, trying to get us some money over in Annapolis, so that would be, you know, very helpful. And if we could just get these courts fixed up, get new courts, it would be wonderful to match the new track and the football and everything else. And we have a lot of players, a lot of good kids that really are enjoying the sport, and it's a lifetime sport, and the better the courts look, the more kids will come out and play. So, and that's what it's all about. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gene Michael. Thanks, Marty.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Couch?
Okay, Mr. President, members of the board, Alice drills. As you are aware, at the beginning of the school year, we trained all of our entire staff, the administrators, the teachers, IAs, custodians, secretaries, food service workers, bus drivers. Everyone was trained in Alice. And Alice is an acronym for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate drills. In October, we trained our students, and in November, we conducted drills in every school in collaboration with law enforcement. In addition, the district now has 3 certified trainers to ensure that we continue to provide annual training as needed. So I just wanted to let you know and let the community know that we have completed our commitment that we said that we would do, and we plan to have additional drills as soon as the winter break is over. So I just wanted to let you know about the Alice drills. Second thing I wanted to let you know is about the Emma L. Grayson Miller dedication that we had over the weekend. On Saturday, we had our dedication ceremony for Emma L. Grayson Miller, Garnett Media Center. We had a great turnout. There were many individuals that made the whole thing possible, and as you know, I acknowledge the board for making that final approval for making the decision to name the media center after Emma Miller. It was a very inspiring ceremony, I thought. The CTE Innovation Grant, I wanted you to know that we received a grant. We received notification that we received a $15,000 grant. It's an innovation grant to expand our CTE programming. The grant will allow us to expand the welding resources to better prepare students to enter into welding apprenticeships. Mark Buckle took the lead in that grant effort, and I just wanted to let you know that those funds will be coming for us to expand the welding program. The reopening plan, wanted to remind you that every 6 months, we have to review the reopening plan, and it has to be done through the duration of ESSER. As required, a few updates were made to the reopening plan. We're seeking input from the families and the community. The revisions will include minor changes that demonstrate our adherence to CDC guidelines, so it's pretty minimal, those changes that we had to make. And then we also updated our data disaggregation. So it's going to be posted on the website. If you would please take a look at that, and if just make some comments to us, what you think about it, we'll bring it back to you in January.
Do you want to clarify, you're talking about COVID? Somebody might not know what you're talking about when you talk about reopening.
Well, it's the reopening plan is not just necessarily about COVID.
Okay.
It's about how we reopened after COVID,
Okay.
but it addresses a number of things that have to be put in the plan.
Okay.
Ethics panel vacancy. Mr. Brian Kirby's term will expire at the end of this month. Therefore, we will have a vacancy on the ethics panel. He is willing to stay on. He is not willing to stay on until we appoint someone else. So we are looking for those to apply to be on the panel itself. You can find the application. It's on the website. I just want to remind you that panel members shall not be incumbent members of the board, school officials or employees, spouses of employees, persons employed by a business entity, subject to the authority of the board, or spouses of such persons and/or registered lobbyists for any business entity in the state that may create a conflict of interest. So if anyone is interested in applying to be on the ethics panel, you can find the application and submit it to Gail Manley. Winter concerts, we have attended a multitude of winter concerts. We completed, I think we were out every single night last week. I want to give a shout out to Ms. Bortz. Her students did wonderful. And also to Ms. Moudet, who also did a wonderful job. So the concerts were inspiring, and I also attended, and I know some of the board members attended this as well. We attended the Christmas Carol at the middle school on Saturday, so that was fun as well. I just wanted to give an update on the tennis courts since it was brought up. I am asking for a legislative appropriation. And Delegate Jacobs is going to carry that legislative appropriation. The school system is also dedicating $90,000 from aging school funding, and that will get us as close as we need to at least redo one of the tennis courts themselves. But in order for us to do all of the tennis courts, we'll have to come up with additional funding. So legislative appropriation is a match. So you have to come up with half the money, and then they come up with the other half. I think the estimate for redoing both courts was about $430,000. So we can get half of that from the state, and then $90,000 comes from the aging schools, so we would need about another $100,000 to do both. And then I just want to end by wishing everyone a wonderful holiday season. We have a lot to be thankful for, and it has been a great year so far, and I'm looking forward to the remainder of the school year. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Couch. The next item on the agenda is the 2022 holiday card.
Okay. Hang on, let me get to that. Every year, we have a group of students that it's their turn to submit designs for consideration for the KCPS holiday card. This year, it was the Kent County Middle School's turn to submit their designs, and there were a number of students that vied for that honor to have their design selected, and Sierra Peterson's design was selected to be on the cover of the 2022 KCPS holiday card, and she is here tonight, so I would like to acknowledge her and give her a copy of her card. Come on up. This is your certificate.
Then we get a picture.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. And then we also gave her a copy of her holiday card. I know it's hard to see, but this is her holiday card, and on the inside it says, "Wishing you joy, peace, and good health this holiday season. Happy holidays, Kent County Public Schools and Board of Education." You can hold that, and I'll hold the card.
Okay, wait. Couch. Wait.
That's her art teacher. All right. Come on up. We've sent out about 100 cards. They went out today. 100 cards have gone out so far. So, parents, why don't you stand up and be recognized?
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Golden Anchor Award.
Thank you, President Getz, school board members, Dr. Couch. Tonight I am here to honor our monthly Golden Anchor nominee. This month we had 7 nominations. And just a reminder to all, this can be any school employee, group of employees can be nominated by any parent, student, or staff member. This month, our winner is an instructional assistant. She is not here this evening, but I do want to share a few words about her that some of her colleagues shared about her. And if we can just hold our applause until I'm done, that would be great. Our winner this month is Miss Shira Blackston. Miss Shira strives every day to create a loving environment that supports our students' academic excellence. She is a quick thinker and a creative problem solver. Ms. Shira goes above and beyond each and every day to get on each student's level to make sure she is meeting their needs in every way she can. Ms. Shira has a knack for children with disabilities and knows how to help de-escalate and teach the children ways to regulate. She is an asset in our classroom and for all the students we have. Her care for students shows through. If everyone can join me in honoring Shira Blackston. She is not here for a photo, but we will get out to the schools for her.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson, appreciate it.
You got it.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the fiscal year 2022 financial report.
Good evening. Thank you for having
Good
me.
evening.
I am Audrey McHenrick. I am with the accounting firm of UHY out of Salisbury. We were previously TGM, and we merged with UHY in January of this year. So same firm, just different name. And I'm here to go over the audited financial statements for the year ended, excuse me, June 30th, 2022. If you will turn to, it's actually page 1 in the financial report that you have.
Bigger one? The big one.
It's the bigger one, yes. And let me just give you some background. Typically, what happens with the audit, just so you have an understanding, we come out usually in May or June of each year and spend about a week looking at the processes in place in your finance department. And we also work a lot on the testing of your federal awards during that week. We then come back out for about a week or 2 weeks in September and do our testing on the actual financial numbers through June 30th of 2022. MSD requires the audit be completed by September 30th. So it's a testament to your finance team, Ms. Stewart, and her staff, just getting everything wound up and together by that June 30th, with the June 30th cutoff, and then by September 30th. It's a feat to get that done in that window of time. So I want to say thank you to her up front. If we look at page 1, this is the independent auditor's report. And the format of this has slightly changed for this year, and that's just based on standards that we have to follow. You will see that the first section of the report is now the opinion, which is probably the most important piece of all of this. And the second paragraph of that states, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. That is an unmodified, clean opinion. It is the best opinion that you can get. We found no issues during the course of our audit. This report goes on to say what we base our opinion on. There's an emphasis of matter. There was a new accounting standard that went into effect related to leases, so it talks about that. It talks about the responsibilities of management for the financial statements, and then on page 2, our responsibilities, and then it goes into more detail on the supplementary information and required supplementary information that is included. Page 4 and 5 is our report on internal control over financial reporting. And while we don't actually offer an opinion on internal control, what we do is we look at internal control and see the processes that are in place, see if those are implemented and functioning as they should. And again, when you go through here, we found no issues that we needed to report based on that. The next section of the report, which starts on page 7, is the management's discussion and analysis. And this is the opportunity for your finance group to basically summarize in a user-friendly format the financial information that you find throughout these statements. That goes through until page 16, which is where the financial statements actually start. The first set of statements that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, it's the statement of net position and the statement of activities on page 16 and 17. And those are on a full accrual basis of accounting. So these financial statements are presented as a business would present its financial statements, which typically most government entities aren't that concerned with, because you want to see more how the cash is coming in and flowing out. And those statements start on page 18. So 18 is the balance sheet. And you will see that list by major fund, which is your general fund and your capital projects fund. And it shows the breakdown of cash, which is obviously important. Total cash for your major funds and non-major funds was around $6 million at the end of the year. And then you have accounts receivable that are going to come in from the federal government or the state. It shows your liabilities and fund balance. And again, your largest liability strictly relates typically around payroll and that summer payroll. And then down at the bottom is your fund balance, and that breaks out into non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned, and gives you your total fund balance, which at the end of the year was sitting at about $5.2 million. Page 19 is just a reconciliation between those full accrual statements in the front and the statement that we just went over. And you can see what's reconciling. Those full statements include liabilities for things such as pension and OPEB. It includes capital assets that get depreciated. Page 20 shows your revenues and expenditures for the year. And it will show that essentially at the end of the year, based on these financial statements, you had a net change in fund balance of approximately $1.6 million. Are there any questions on any of those statements so far? And again, the next page, page 21, is a reconciliation from those initial statements, full accrual, to the statement we've just gone over for the revenues and expenditures. Page 22 is your statement of fiduciary net position. And what this shows, this is what's in your retiree benefit trust fund. It's the money that's been set aside to pay future OPEB cost. And that was about $1.255 million at the end of the year. The next page just shows the activity and how we got to that $1.255 million. And again, this year with the way the market had dipped at June 30th is why you see that amount go down. On the next pages 24 through pages about 54 are the notes to the financial statements. There were no significant changes in those during the year. There is the emphasis of matter paragraph that talked about leases. There is some detail on that about these. And essentially what your leases are, you have leases for copy machines and some vehicles. And the government-wide statements just make us show future lease payments now on those first statements that are on the full accrual basis. And then the other statement that's typically very important is the statement on page 55, which is required supplementary information. And this is the schedule of revenues, expenditures, and encumbrances, budget to actual. So this is all your revenues and expenditures, and those expenditures include what has been encumbered at the end of the year. And you'll see that revenues, the final budget amount for revenues was about $35.6 million. And what actually came in was about $34.6 million. the largest piece of that, you do budget amendments for federal awards that you're anticipating receiving, but you may not have expended those yet. So that's why under the restricted federal, state, and other, you'll see that's below what was budgeted. And then the expenditures and encumbrances, total expenditures and encumbrances were budgeted about $36.6 million, and actual came in at about $33.3 million. So about $3 million under budget, which is always better to come in under budget than over budget. So your total revenues over expenditures at the end of the year on this budgetary basis was about $1.2 million. The rest of the statements are required supplementary information on pensions and OPEB, which I would be happy to answer any questions on if anyone has any questions on those. And then there's some additional supplementary information on, again, that breaks out revenues in further detail on page 63. Shows a combining balance sheet and income statement on 64 and 65 for your non-major funds. And then there is for the additional information on food service. And then one of the other things we do is we always test some of the school activity funds. So each of your schools has separate accounts set up where there's receipts and expenses going through that, and we do test some of those every year. Any questions on any of that, or?
So it's safe to say that we are doing what we are supposed to do with our financial records in the school system. It is
Correct.
safe to say that.
It is safe to say that, yes. If there's nothing else, I will thank Ms. Stewart again. Thank you for all your help, and her group, very helpful, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is an action item. The administration is recommending acceptance by the board for the fiscal year 2022 audited financial statements. Do we have a motion to accept?
I move that we accept the audited financial statements.
Dr. Costa has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll make a second. Oh.
Ms. McGee has the second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the board member recognition.
Okay, Mr. President, members of the board, we have two of our board members that are outgoing, will no longer be on the board. This is their last board meeting, so I have gifts for them. Wendy Costa, your guidance and direction as a board member has strengthened the bond between the community and the school. It says Dr. Wendy Costa, Kent County Public Schools. Your term was 2015 to 2022. So this is for you. We're going to take a picture, so don't lose it. Same thing with Mr. Johnson. Your guidance and direction as a board member has strengthened the bond between the community and the school. Nybeek Johnson, Kent County Public Schools, 2019 to 2022. What I would just like to say is it's been a pleasure working with the two of you. You have had such passion for the school system, and I think that you brought a lot of expertise that we will definitely miss on the Board of Education. So we will miss you, and I'm sure you're going to have nothing to do on Monday nights when we have board meetings, so we expect you to come back. So, no. So what I'd like to do is get a picture of the board members and Braden. I know that that is something that Mr. Johnson would like, so if you all could go with your little gifts and we could take a picture of the board members. What is it?
There you go.
Smiles.
So as is tradition, I would ask that if either you, Dr. Costa, or Mr. Johnson have any comments you'd like to make, and then I would open up to any other board members as well, and Mr. Wallace, so please, the floor is yours.
Well, I'd just like to say it's really been an honor to be a member of this board, and I thought it was a really wonderful experience. I want to thank Dr. Couch and the other members of the board and everyone involved in the schools for making it a school district that is continuously improving. When I first ran for the school board 8 years ago, I think I had a letter that said, schools matter for everyone, and I still believe that. It isn't just the students, but the whole community really benefits from having good schools. I'm really proud of the progress that this district makes on a continuing basis. Every month we vote on things that I think make the district better. My most lasting impression of this school district is just that people work very hard in this district at all levels. I'm always kind of bowled over when I see how clean the schools are, really shining. I see how teachers are working very hard, and people in this building, the central office, bus drivers, all working very hard to improve the lives of all children. And I think as long as people continue to work this hard, our children will have a very bright future in Kent County. And I want to thank everybody who's involved in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Costa. Mr. Johnson.
Yes. So I grew up, around school board, and my biggest goal in life was to say the words "so moved" in second, and if I did that, I would be good. Actually, the other day I was at home and I was coming across some binders from back from the 90s in the early 2000s of my grandmother's. You would think service is, adult service, now service to me is much more than it's very profound. It's very transformative. It's like a delightful treat to a tired moment. It's the gift that has kept giving through the hostility, through the scathing remarks, through the mass hysteria about issues that don't even relate to Kent County, and how one might perceive the role of the board. And I just must take a moment to indulge some of the great things that we have done here, even in the face of one time, I'm not even just talking about myself, but, being name called to my face, being told I was from Africa because of the uniqueness of my name, and being scolded because I didn't respond to an email after I lost my 10-day-old nephew. Those types of things may tell people to run from service, but it really causes us to really wallow in the service that we're doing and really run to the service. Dr. Couch, I want to thank you for your attention to detail, your creativity, more importantly, your resiliency, and many of the successful programs and initiatives in this county that are a result of your leadership. President Getz, I've always appreciated our conversations, your reassurance on the process. Whatever the process is, it must work, and if it doesn't work, how do we fix it, and how do we make it better? And you gave me one piece of advice the day after I was elected, which has always guided me, which was to always make it about the children. Ms. McGee, it's always been a pleasure to serve with you, and I'm grateful for how our friendship has elevated especially this year. It's meant a great deal to me. Dr. Costa, our countless hours that we spend on the phone, sometimes 2 hours, talking about our issues and our school system and our life and touring schools. Ms. Sullivan, again, you have always been the voice for our caregivers, really questioning on how to make it accessible. To Mr. Wallace, although your time has been short, you have been a voice for our students and a champion making the students' voices heard on the board, and this was seen tonight with your work on the vote. And being a student member of the board is rewarding work. You know, we should take pride. Ms. Manley, thank you for you keeping us on track with the agenda and your countless questions. Mr. Constance, for your expert legal advice. And grateful for the members I serve with. To our administration, you have really shown what it takes to keep a small school system running and in motion. You have shown me how the creative energies and the processes in teaching and learning, social emotional work, and you are individuals are just genuinely the tacticians of our school system. To our educational professionals in the classroom, you are the hub in our schools that keep our students returning daily. You are the ones that cultivate and inspire the mind to think deeper about the context of what they're learning and to find themselves both socially, emotionally, and academically. To our scholars, you've inspired me to reach individual milestones and seeing your milestones being reached. To our parents, sometimes you didn't agree with our decision-making, but not many people do. But you trusted us to educate. But may I just share a couple of glimpses of the big things that I could say that we did here while I was on the board working together. We took on the pilot of the Achieving Black Boys initiatives that we brought to Kent County. We were one of the first boards in the state of Maryland to adopt an equity policy. Kent County Public Schools can now offer more opportunities and benefits to our students and educational professionals through our LEADS grant. Post-COVID, we were able to offer stipends to our educational professionals to show the great deal of work that they did. I saw some great teaching methods, incredible concerts, theatrical performance, athletic events, and incredible work of our students. We were able to rename our school locations after individuals who inspired educational experiences right here in Kent County. On this board, we represented it at the state and national levels, representing Kent County Public Schools at a National School Board Association and creating our equity workbook that was used by school board leaders across the nation and administrators right here in the state. We were able to start holding successful retreats to go over the goals needed to run the school system. And the big kicker was navigating a pandemic, which none of us saw coming. Within those highlights, there are things we could have done better. We can always go down the line and point the finger, but pointing the finger doesn't stop the work. Pointing the finger is not just enough. It's just not enough to sit on the sides and complain about a school system time and time after again because you're unhappy. Where are you when the school system is doing well? Where are you doing the achievements? Where are you doing the work that has to be done? We must ask ourselves this question. John Lewis said in an author series, Civil Disobedience, he said, if it is gnawing at your conscience, then it may be your problem. Don't let it be your problem when you're mad. Let it be your problem all the time. Don't let it be a problem because somebody got fired or something's unhappy. Let it be your problem each and every day as students go through the school system. We have to move away from those superficial feelings. We have to focus on the work of our small school district to make it better and make it more to be the school district that we once knew and the one that we wanted to return to. He also said, sometimes people don't hear the first time. We must be persistent. Be persistent in the positivity and not the negativity. Be persistent about Kent County Public Schools, just not when we're doing good, but lifting the school system up when we might have failed or might have made a stumble. He also said that following your conscience, a person with conviction can change the world. Many times people don't want to show their conviction, but if you have conviction, you can change the world. And he said, if you follow your conscience, you will always sleep well. I have a great deal, and I think Dr. Costa can say, we did sleep well. We followed our conscience. I tell you, we may have flaws, but nothing can take the great things that Kent County has done over these last 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'll open the floor to any other board members that would like to go. And
I did have just a couple things. I wanted to thank both Wendy Costa and Ivy Johnson for the time you've dedicated to the board. Your passion, thoughtfulness, and unique perspectives have truly benefited our students. Wendy's been championing the need for a foundation for many years, and I'm so happy that she got to see the Kent County Public Schools Education Foundation come to fruition. Nivek has always been a hands-on member of the Board of Education and has made himself available to our community, students, and schools. Nivek was just 18 years old when he first ran for the Kent County Board of Education in 2012. And his commitment to our students and the Kent County community has only grown since then. He's always been a vocal advocate for increased opportunities for both our students and our teachers. And I look forward to seeing what you do next, Nivek and Wendy. Thank you.
I want to echo the sentiments of everybody else, but starting with Wendy. Wendy and I served together for 8 years. That's a long time to be shoulder to shoulder. And I sat next to you for many of those years. And as small as Kent County is, I was just telling her when we were actually in the bathroom that I don't think our paths would ever have crossed if we hadn't been on the board together, and I would have been all the lesser of that. When I stand back and look at the very knotty issues we dealt with, we closed 2 elementary schools, which we became Kent's most unwanted. Do you remember the poster?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have that poster, by the way. We screwed up the bus contract. I mean, there was standing room only in this room. There was a 4.5-hour school board meeting devoted only to screwing up the bus contract. But that was remedied in about 10 days. And as Nivek said, a pandemic, I mean, that's one thing that will unite the 5 of us and Dr. Couch forever. Somehow getting through that, stumbling sometimes, but Kent County was actually the forefront. I think that's one of the rare times when being small was to our advantage. We had a reopening plan before anybody else, and we faced pushback from the community. There was a group that wanted to open sooner, wanted in person, wanted no masks, and we sort of held our ground, and I think at the end we proved to make the right decision. I was also going to mention how young baby-faced Nelson over there was when he started. Nivek was literally just a teenager, and that's hard to believe that someone can be so dedicated to service at such a young age, and that hasn't changed. And I wouldn't be surprised if 2 years from now he throws his hat back in the ring or maybe aspires to something bigger. But the foundation was laid here, and I think of all of the members of us, Nivek is the most accessible to the public. He bore the brunt of some real ugliness this past year because he literally was on the front line and he was so accessible, and he took it like a man. He never wavered, he never gave in, he didn't say things or do things to appease people. He lived by his principles, and for that I will always respect him.
Thank you. Mr. Wallace, did you want to go, or do you want me to just go? Okay. So I'm not going to go through the roll call of everything that's been mentioned. I will just truly tell both of you that in this space and also outside of this space, you have both become trusted friends of mine forever. And I can't thank you both enough for serving the way you have. We've all come from different spaces in time and places, and I've just been it's been an honor for me to serve with both of you. And we've had some long conversations. We've really gone through a lot together. But I just want to say thank you. This is certainly not the end of our time together. In this space it is, but outside of this, I just really appreciate your friendship, your dedication to the students of Kent County, your dedication to the staff and teachers of Kent County, to the parents of Kent County, to this board. I just can't thank you guys enough, so I'm not going to say goodbye. Certainly, it's been great, not only here, and it was mentioned, not only in Little Kent County, but also throughout the state and also nationally. So thank you both for your service and what you've done. Really appreciate it. You're still on until the 31st, so. Okay, we'll move on to the next topic on the agenda, which is the Citizen Advisory Committee vacancies.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, you have before you just an outline of what is in the policy for Citizens Advisory Committee that specifically speaks to vacant CAC positions. In the policy itself, it says, when due to resignation or inability of a member to serve, a vacancy occurs on the committee, the chairperson of the advisory committee will so inform the Board of Education. 4 consecutive absences will result in removal from the advisory committee. The board may exercise its right not to fill a vacancy in cases where the remainder of the unexpired term is a short period of time or impractical to fill. In addition, as per the policy, at the April meeting of the Board of Education, new members will be appointed to the committee to replace outgoing members. Their membership shall begin July 1 and end June 30. Therefore, the board must now consider whether we're going to fill the CAC vacancies or if they should remain unfilled. And I will open it up for discussion, and the board will need to take an action in terms of what you wish to do.
Can I ask why they were not vacant?
I can answer that. One parent's child is no longer a student in our service, in our school system, and the other parent was able to serve on one of the other blueprint committees, and they much preferred to do that, thought they could have more of an impact doing that.
Okay, thank you.
So the 2 submitted letters of resignation.
And how many meetings between now and?
April?
We've been holding about 1 a month, but our obligation is 4 per year. So I believe we've had 8 up to this point.
And we have a meeting scheduled for January 19th.
January 19th.
19?
Mm-hmm. So it's a board of 13, minus those 2, takes us to 11. That includes Ms. Sullivan and myself.
And where are the vacancies? Which?
There's
Millington and the high school.
Yeah, not Millington.
Excuse me, Galena. They live in Millington. And both of those schools have another representative.
Okay.
Because we changed the year from a calendar year to a school year, the next application time would open in March, I believe. And then we would be assigning or appointing new members to terms for the July 1st start.
So the members that are currently on the board essentially are serving an 18-month period because
we
of that
changed the
overlap.
Yep.
But from moving forward, it will be a year just from July 1st to June 30th.
Now, are these 2 vacancies, if they were to be filled, are these automatically renewed to move forward?
they'd
Or
have
is
to
just,
re-
it's
they'd
only
have
the
to
balance of
reapply.
these?
Yeah.
Okay, they'd have to reapply.
One of them was just a 1 year, were they both just for
think they're
1?
both 1 years.
Okay, yeah.
Are there any questions from any other board members?
So we have a meeting scheduled for January. I suspect the next meeting would be either in February or March and would most likely focus on the budget cycle. My feeling is that I don't think it's necessary to fill the position for that short term, since we are going to be accepting new applications for the new seats to be filled starting in July. But I leave it to the board.
The term starts in July, but we'll start accept applications April?
Yeah, March, I think.
I'm going to check, but I think they actually start in February, but I'll see.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Either or.
Okay. Any other comments? I mean,
I guess the question does, if you just decide, would that hinder any work that is already ongoing? Probably not.
I don't think we have any unresolved issues, to be honest with you. One was, that was brought up at the end of last school year, which was the overcrowding at Garnett. I can't think of anything.
We haven't really had anything that's been ongoing.
What would, I guess the other question, what would be like the timeline? So say we do, whatever direction we take, what would be the time, say we do take the direction to fill the vacancies, what would the timeline be? Would that be?
We would still want them to submit an application, so
Yeah.
they would still have to go through an application process.
Okay.
And it would be just from Galena and the high school. It wouldn't be an at-large.
Okay, this is an action item if the board so chooses. If that is the case, the board will need to entertain a motion on whether to fill the CAC vacancies
Or not.
or not. And if there's no motion brought forward, then it's a not.
So how many meetings will the CAC be short? Like not, like only a few meetings, right?
I mean, we pretty much decide month to month when we're going to have the meetings. We've been holding them each month, but we're only obligated to have 4 per year.
And
So
we didn't meet this month, and I'm not sure we met in November because things went quickly, and now we're up on top of the holidays.
Right.
Okay, I'll formally call for a motion if that is the choice of the board. I hear no motion. Then we move forward with the 2 vacant positions. Okay. The next item on the agenda is personnel actions. Mr. Hushin.
Thank you, President Getz, Dr. Couch, school board members. Each month, the board receives a report of stated personnel actions. These actions are then discussed during closed session, and then a vote is held during open session. The administration seeks approval of those stated personnel actions.
Thank you, Mr. Hushin. As he just stated, the administration is recommending approval of the stated personnel actions. Do we have a motion to do so?
I'll make a motion to approve personnel actions.
Ms. Sullivan has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. McGee. Any further comments or questions or concerns? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Hushin. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Oh, never mind. Sorry.
The next item on the agenda is the Kent County Teachers Association. I do not see a representative here. And we'll move right into board discussion. Mr. Wallace?
Right, so Garnett, December 14th will be Garnett Night at Procolinos. Garnett will receive 10% back on all orders. For Galena Elementary, December 14th and 15th will be Vision and Hearing Testing Day. December 16th will be Picture Retake Day. December 16th will also be KCPS Christmas Band Concert. December 19th will be Jingle Bell Fun Run and a PBIS event. December 20th, Asynchronous Learning Day, and December 21st, winter break begins. For Kent County Middle School, there will be a holiday concert this Thursday at 6 p.m. For KCHS, Tuesday, 12/13, KCHS Girls Basketball versus Cambridge at 4 p.m. in the Trojan Arena. Wednesday, 12/14, KCHS 14th Annual Seasonal Sensations Dinner at 6 p.m. Then Thursday, the 15th, KCHS Girls Basketball versus QA at 4 p.m. in the KCHS Trojan Arena. Friday through Saturday and Sunday to the 17th, Kent Holiday Wrestling Tournament at 3 p.m. Friday and 8 a.m. on Saturday in the Trojan Arena. And the 35th Annual KCHS Planetarium Christmas Program the theme will be Christmas is the most wonderful time of the year, and it'll be Thursday until the 20th at 7 p.m. So it'll be the 17th through the 20th at 7 p.m. at the auditorium.
Okay.
And that's all.
Thank you. Dr. Costa?
I've been to a number of things. They sort of run into each other. I saw Romeo and Juliet, went to a totally packed concert at the high school that was for Galena. It was very nice. And I thought the ceremony for, at Garnett for the dedication of the media center was really the nicest thing I've ever been to in the school system. It was just very tastefully done and really important. I mean, I learned a lot. I had never heard of this individual before, and she's definitely somebody everyone should know about who lives here. And I thought it was really just great. So it was nice to end on that note, because it was very, very nice. Very well done.
Great, thank you. Ms. Sullivan?
Like most everyone here, I've been to a number of really wonderful holiday events, as well as the National Honor Society induction at the high school, and I want to congratulate all those students. I attended the Galena winter concert on the 6th, and it was standing room only. It was fantastic, and I thank the students and the families who came out for all of the winter concerts last week. I also braved an all-ages middle school dance on Friday night as a chaperone, so I was there all afternoon, and it was fantastic. The kids were having the best time, singing songs I've never heard before, doing dances I would not attempt without hurting myself, and it was really, really great.
As somebody who just turned 50.
Yes. It seemed like the right thing to do after that. And I concur with what Dr. Costa was saying about the dedication on Saturday, on December 10th, for Emma Grayson Miller. Absolutely a person that everyone in Kent County should know, and I feel now that when I see this picture, I know Emma, and I know that she's connected to Kent County and to me and my kids. It was a truly lovely program, which included a musical selection by the Garnett Chorus, which made me cry, which was very nice. And brief histories were given of both Emma Grayson Miller and Henry Highland Garnett, who is another person I think that we could all do better to know more about. Henry Highland Garnett. There was also a presentation of a documentary that was researched by Karen Somerville and produced by Chesapeake Heartland. And the video of that documentary is available on the Chesapeake Heartland website, which is chesapeakeheartland.org, and I encourage everyone to go and watch it and share it and feel the pride that we should all feel in how education has been developed here in Kent County. And if you go by Garnett, you will see a plaque outside of the front entrance commemorating this dedication, and please stop and take a moment to read it. So I am looking forward to attending the Kent County High School Seasonal Sensations Dinner on December 14th, and I wish you all wonderful holidays and stay safe, and we'll see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Ms. McGee?
Yeah, there's been a flurry of activity in a very short period of time. This past Monday was the Honor Society induction. We had the Emma Grayson Miller ceremony on Saturday morning, and the middle school had their play on Saturday night. Winter sports have opened for the high school. Everything's in full swing. I really want to use maybe 2 minutes of my board discussion to just follow up on what some of the parents said during their public participation. Last month, I was really rattled by what was read. I mean, I was disturbed and distressed. I had made a pledge to myself in July that, gosh darn it, I'm going to read the top 20 banned books. That's what I told myself. And I've run on through. Fortunately, the number one I read over Thanksgiving, just like that. And I'm looking at my notes that I took last month, and the thing that really just stuck with me is having somebody stand at that podium and say, the filth in our schools is appalling. So I'm going to read from the number one banned book in the country, lessons that were not read last month. The first thing, there's truly something to be said about the fact that you sometimes can't see yourself if you can't see other people like you existing, thriving, working. I can only imagine the courage it took for you to be yourself. I talked to a Kent County public librarian, and she said, that's the whole purpose of books, to educate people. How do you learn if there isn't somebody setting the course for you? The second thing, this is really appalling, isn't it? Love is an unconditional thing. Oh, my God, let's throw that book right out of the library while we're at it, okay? This is a 304-page book, and we do not get to that little synopsis they read until page 201. So, they had to be knowing what they were looking for. And this is my favorite thing. You don't know what you like or who you are if you allow yourself to be fit into a box that society has made for you. Learn what you like and don't like. So I find nothing appalling or filthy in this book, and totally opposed to banning books. I feel like we're reliving the movie Footloose, and the next thing is we're not going to be able to have a dance. So,
What is that book?
All Boys Are Not Blue. So,
By
by the way, it was on the Kent County High School's website, in the library, and no one had taken out the book.
Now they will.
Wendy wants people to read.
Okay.
Yeah, I've read a lot of banned books, and the effort to ban books comes from both the left and the right. And I have a good friend who wrote a book about Mark Twain and told me that he could spend every week of his life talking to school boards about why they should include Huckleberry Finn in the curriculum. It shouldn't be banned, it shouldn't be, shunned. But because of one word, a lot of people want to ban that book. So I completely agree with you. I wish kids would read a lot more, and I think this blueprint can only work if parents get their kids to do more reading, because the schools just don't have that much time to, they can teach reading, but you really get good at it by practicing, by actually doing it. And I hope we encourage kids to read all kinds of books, the best of lots of genres. And if I had one goal for kids in the school district, it would be that when they graduate from high school, they have a real love of reading and value it and sort of learn how to discern, what's really great and maybe what's not. But I'm glad to see this board take this position.
And for the record, the word sex does not appear until page 171. And it only appears once.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, President Getz, board members. Romeo and Juliet was great. I thought for having read that back when I was in school, it was even more comical, but in a good way. In a good way. The students were really, really expressive, and I enjoyed the play. I really did. I attended our community leader dinner. Washington College freshman students were given a chance to explore our Kent County community, and I was one leaders tapped to work with that. I think Ms. McGee was tapped at one time as well to talk about different things happening in the school system and things happening in the community. They gave their synopsis on the 8th, and where they talked a little bit about the projects that they focused on, the people they interviewed, and some of the things that they could take Tally could take the projects to the community. It was really to drive the college and the community back together, because we see that there is some sort of division. We're not sure where the division started, but there is some sort of division between those areas. The Media Center dedication, I thought, was really well attended. It was a great time. I learned a lot, having grown up with, some of the relatives of Miss Grayson Miller in church, really learning more and more about that history, and never connected it, never knew some things. So that was really, really eye-opening to me. I had noticed that MSD had released the way that they were going to score the test. I'm looking forward to hearing, I'll be gone, but hearing how we do and the state test, the MCAP. It's good to know that we are completing our ALICE trainings, that they were all completed, and I think that's really a testament to, to the work that we really want to see done. School systems are things are beginning to be more up in our students' faces, and that's through radicalization of, apps and videos. Those things are happening, and there's no way to sometimes ignore those things, but while we can't fix it, we can always get ahead of it. And I think that's one thing I like about Kent County. We try our best to get ahead of it. And in Prince George's County a couple of weekdays ago, there was a shooting right at Suitland High School. So our students are exposed to so much. And how do we work to help that? How do we educate? We can educate through different ways. And some ways, some people may feel, taking things off the shelves is the way to educate, but that might not even be the case. So I think we are doing great things. There's great energy here in Kent County, and I do look forward to seeing how we move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. So among all of the other events that we had, I just wanted to speak about the music concerts, not only at the high school for the elementary schools, but also the Dickens event that was in Chestertown. It was cold. And just the fact that, Ms. Bortz, you had the Tiger Bucket Band, I believe they're called, as well as the high school with their jazz band. It was really nice to open the event. I don't know how the rest of the weekend went, but I'm glad we were able to get that in. But I will tell you, with sports, coaches, students working very hard with their performances and teachers working very hard and corralling and staff getting the students kind of together. It's just really amazing. And the plays, the Christmas Carol play at the middle school, Romeo and Juliet was mentioned, just over and over and over again. It's just amazing this time of year that we've been able to have all of these events put together, and it's just such a joy to see the students do that. Once again, thank you to both of you for serving 8 years and 4 years. Really appreciate that. And certainly, as I say at this time every year, just take, for all of us, everyone in the school system, parents, students, staff, teachers, custodians, everyone, take the holidays and enjoy, breathe, relax. We have a whole half a year starting right after the first. I know it's going to be fun. But again, thank you to everyone. Happy holidays, and we certainly look for some great things to come out. Okay, we'll move on to Education Services, and I see Next Gen Scholars Update is next.
Good evening, President Getz, board members, Dr. Couch. Tonight, we would like to update you on the progress and the success of the Next Generation Scholars Program. As you know, we are one of 5 counties in the state of Maryland that are able to host this program. We're moving into year 6, believe it or not, of this grant-funded partnership with the Maryland Business Roundtable. And Andra Anderson, who is going to do the bulk of tonight's speaking, spearheads this program, advises, and I would say that the program itself is quality, but without the leadership and stability that Andra has brought to this program, I think it has gone above and beyond. I would put us up against anybody, one of those 5, as the premier school that hosts this program. So we do focus this year on identified students in grades 10, 11, and 12 on a full menu of services to connect these students to the MHEC pipeline. And those of you that aren't sure what MHEC means, that's the Maryland Higher Education Commission. Andra is going to talk a little bit about the services, provide some data, talk about some upcoming plans, but before I turn this over, I do want to give you a few data points for the last year's graduating class of 2022. There were 47 Next Gen Scholar students in that class. 74% or 35 of the 47 did attend a trade school or college. 16 received the Guaranteed Access Grant, which totaled almost $700,000. 17 of those students received academic scholarships totaling approximately $68,000. So that is one of the main purposes of this program, to help these students access higher education and to access those grant funds and as well get some academic scholarships. So Andra, I will turn it over and you can talk about the initiatives, data, and plans.
Awesome. All right. Year 6, I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. I want to first just say thank you to Dr. Costa and Mr. Johnson for good conversations. You're being a champion of programs like Next Generation Scholars, and I hope that that's not the end of the conversation that we will have in terms of all of those things. So thank you both very much. So year 6, I'm so excited. If I just hit this, will this work?
Oh, open up.
Boom. Nope. There we go. Okay, so I just wanted to throw these numbers up there. Overall, so we are in 5 counties, 6 schools. This is the number from last year. So we had 107 students across those 5 districts receive the Guaranteed Access Grant, which was up to $20,000 per year. We actually had a couple of students in Kent who got refund checks because they got too much money for school. So that was pretty exciting first day of college for them, right? They're like, what is this? And I said, that's money. Go cash it. That is for you to have. So that totaled about $2.65 million. So we're real excited about that figure. This is our second graduating class, the class of 2022. So we just keep improving each year. Overall, we had 360 volunteers and a total of almost 20,000, a little over 20,000 student interactions across those 5 districts. So a lot of programming, a lot. This is a little smaller to see, but I'm really excited. I love that picture of Next Gen leaders at their awards night. Just such a fun evening. But this is just specific to Kent County, the number of sessions. So had almost 400 different programming sessions, from FAFSA workshops, how to pay for college, small group mentoring, STEM sessions, mock interviews, summer programming, service learning. So it over the course of the year impacted about 1,200 different students. Some of those, of course, it's more than one student, but 400 different sessions, which is pretty awesome. So we did a lot. And I need to say, a lot of that was, we started an internship program last year, and my student intern last year, Jody, was like, she would finish my sentences. So it was, we did so much because I had a second me. So it was amazing. So thank you to Jody. Class of 2022, again, like Tracy said, 64% attended college and 10% attended trade school. So that's 74% of the class has gone on to some higher learning, which we're super excited for. 24% jumped into a career, and 2% are in the armed forces, a variety of different branches. Real excited about this class. I'm going to see some of them on Thursday night. We're doing a little meetup at Towson, so that'll be really exciting, too, to see them at college. We started this program last year, Next Gen Leaders, so I identified some students who just went above and beyond, were always in the Next Generation Scholars programming, attended all the different sessions, had great conversations with them, set an example for the other students. So polled about 12 students last year, and they were the ones that helped to run the programs. They helped with recruiting of 10th graders, and this is the current group of Next Gen leaders. So we have 11 students who are currently leaders, and again, each of them are taking on a different project or something that they're passionate about and running with it. They help to host our awards night at the end of the year. They'll help run the college and career fair in the spring. We will do some pretty cool leadership training with these students as well. So real excited about the start of this program, and it just gives these students an extra level of college access as well. Really excited. We're starting our alumni program. So we have now our 2 classes that have graduated, and we're doing a meetup at Towson this week. We will bring alumni back to meet with the students, and they walk those hallways like they're celebrities. I mean, everybody's like, what's up? Especially when they come to the middle school. I don't know what it is, but when they come into the middle school to help with a session, it's like, I don't even know what celebrity just walked through the door, but they love it. The kids love it. I don't know if they have younger siblings or what it might be, be, but the energy that they bring is just so amazing, and they're living the experience that we're working to help the other students achieve. So bringing them back has just been so awesome. So this group actually did a panel last year for last year's seniors and just talked about what they wish they would have known their senior year, how it was their first semester at college, what they didn't expect or anticipate. So we're going to bring that program back again this year in the spring. A couple of these students also went into 8th grade classrooms and did like hands-on STEM learning sessions. One of the students is studying architecture at University of Maryland, so he like brought one of his programs from University of Maryland to the 8th graders, and they crushed it. It was awesome. And we're also hoping to get these alumni trained so that they can do our Maryland Scholars Signature Program, which is thinking about, what does it cost to live, and thinking about planning for your high school success and your future success. So I'm really excited. My overall goal, which I've told to my boss, is one of these students will take my job one day. I'm coaching them to come back and do this job, right? And that's what we would hope for. So looking ahead, year 6, have about 156 students in the program. There's the split, 50 10th grade, 49 11th grade, and 57 12th grade. Right now, so we do an initial year survey. Right now, about 84% of the senior class is looking to go to college or trade school. So real excited about that. And they've kept that up from September through now. We do a mid-year check-in, and then we'll do a spring check-in as well, just to see where are you on track with your plans. Is there something, has anything changed? A lot of times what we find in March is students are like, wait, I want to apply somewhere. It's still possible, still possible. So we'll help them with that. So this fall we went to UMBC's campus. That's where MBRT is located, so it was kind of neat to bring students home. That was really awesome. And we caught up with 2 of our alumni who are currently going there, and that was a really fun moment to see them and take pictures with them. We did a career tour with our new 10th grade students at Dixon, Shore Medical, Washington College, and Kent County Government. That was an awesome day where they just got to see what careers exist in their backyard, and hearing about titles of jobs they'd never heard of before. That's always the most fun part of that program. We just completed mock interviews with grade 11 students, connecting them with a local professional to help look over their resume, talk about their presentation, all of the building confidence, all of those different things. And we hosted a scholarship workshop last week for seniors with the Midshore Community Foundation. They offer like $1.6 million, and we want to make sure Kent County gets a big chunk of that. That's my goal this year. So we had, I think, 32 students apply last year, and I want 50 this year. I want them all. So we had a really good number come to that workshop, so I'm hopeful. I know that Blueprint College Career Readiness is a hot topic, and that's something MBRT focuses a lot on when we get together for our training, and we're talking with our business partners. So I wanted to highlight what we do in grade 10 to really focus on that college career readiness. So we do take students on career tours. I do a program called College 101 just to help them figure out what is college, what is trade school, is this something that's a pathway for me. We'll do college visits. We're planning to go to University of Maryland and Bowie State University in the spring. So we'll take students there, do a Trades 101. I'm actually hosting Trades Jeopardy tomorrow, which will be really fun. And we'll host a college and career fair so they can see all of the different elements of, what careers exist or what colleges might be in the area. So a lot of focus on college and career readiness starting in 10th grade. And we find 10th grade is a good time to start. That's when students really start to pick up on what their future plan might be. Initially, we started in 7th grade, so these current seniors I've known since 7th grade. 7th grade, I'll echo the middle school, is a little rough. 7th grade's a little rough for these conversations, but 10th grade is real good. So again, we're going to visit University of Maryland, Bowie State. I'm real excited for both of those visits. We have a lot of interest from our students in both of those schools. Bringing the alumni back for a workshop, doing some leadership training in conjunction with Washington College for the Next Gen leaders, and hosting another series of classroom lessons. One thing I didn't put on here, we did have our Salisbury University on-site admission day, so we had 15 students admitted on the spot to Salisbury University this fall, and 2 of those students have already enrolled. So pretty exciting. I know, very exciting, very exciting. So hopefully, I just met with the new Vice President of Admission for Washington College, and I think he heard we were doing that program, and he said, well, Washington College needs to do it too. So hopefully this gets other schools wanting to come and do this program as well. That's my hope. So I have to plug our Instagram and Facebook, but thank you for your continued support of this programming. It's been so fun to learn and watch it grow and watch the students grow as well. The current seniors since 7th grade just have been part of their lives and their journey, and it's been really cool to see what they're doing now and where they end up and being part of that puzzle. So do y'all have any questions for me?
I do.
Yeah.
Because I know it's grant funded, right?
It is, yes.
So I remember a year or so ago talking to you about it and worrying that after we went through 4 years and a group graduated, whether the next group could count on it.
Right.
What's the status of the grant? Do you have to apply every year?
So, yes, we do. We actually found out like a day before our contracts that we were getting a job again, so that was real fun this year. We do have to reapply for it. This year was a little different because a lot of turnover at MSDE. So every partner that receives the funding for the Next Generation Scholars Grant will have to reapply in the next year. However, MBRT is sort of seen as the leader in Next Gen. I'm not worried about it. It is, the funding is a budget line item. It's written into law in the state of Maryland. So I don't see the program going away. We want to expand. We want to go beyond five schools. So we have proposals in for a few other schools, and that's my hope for next year, is that we'll just get bigger.
One other question.
Yeah.
What's your retention rate in terms of grabbing a kid in the 7th grade and getting them all the way through?
So,
are they invested? Do they stick with it, or do you have a few drop off?
It's kind of neat in Kent County. I've never had anybody opt out of the program, as other districts have. The level of engagement changes. It's interesting. I was just talking with a senior who really was not engaged in the program, and I've seen him like 20 times this year. So it just changes when they're like, oh, right, you can help. So their level of engagement will change, but we've never lost a student that, unless they like moved out of the district or whatever. Yeah, it's been great.
How do you work with the counseling department for those students maybe that are not in the program? What does that kind of partnership look like?
Yeah, so I'll try to host things that don't include more than just Next Gen. So like the scholarship workshop I did last week was any senior could come to it. It wasn't limited to just Next Gen students. We're in constant communication, so I'll like share the list of students. They hosted a trades week this week, for example, and I helped to register some Next Gen students. So it's a good partnership in that respect. And keeping notes on, I talked to the student, did you hear from that student? Hey, good news, whatever it might be. So all that communication back and forth. Yeah.
Any questions, additional questions?
I would just like to add that I'm a part of this program.
Yes, he is.
And
so proud.
I absolutely love it, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it a lot, and I think it's a really good thing for our school. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Thanks.
That's great.
So thank you so much.
Thank you for the
Happy
update.
holidays.
Appreciate it. Same to you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the KCHS late bus.
Okay, let me get to that. Okay, Mr. President, members of the board, we spoke about the late bus, the last board meeting, talked about the costs that we would have to incur in order to begin a late bus. We talked also about processes in terms of how we're going to determine which students ride the bus and which students shouldn't ride the bus. We had an opportunity, Mr. Wheeler and I spoke with Mrs. Hemstetter. We had a nice conversation, and we have a good process in place for monitoring those students, and we would propose that we would begin the late bus services on January the 9th. That will give us an opportunity to get back from winter break, get everybody acclimated, and begin the late bus. We would add it into the transportation budget, and just would like your approval to begin the late bus.
Just for the high school?
Just for the high school.
And it's 3 routes, though, right?
Three routes.
Does
It'd
that
be the
mean
north end.
3 buses, or
Three
just?
buses.
Oh, okay.
Be Chestertown, the southern part, and the northern part. So basically Rock Hall and then Galena, Millington, that area as well.
Just working out the wrinkles of how you identify students
Yeah,
and getting the word out to them.
Yeah, as soon as we get approval from the board, then we'll start working on
Okay.
that part of it.
Any additional comments?
I just want to say that I'm very grateful for you finding whoever found the money in the budget. I'm very grateful for that. It's been a topic of conversation and frustration among parents for many years, beginning with parents who had a late bus when they came through Kent County High School. And it's also an example of, I know bureaucracy can move pretty darn slow, but this caught fire in a hurry. Mr. Unikas was only here a month or so ago, and this has been made to happen, so I'm very happy about that. So whoever did it, thank you.
I would add that, we'll see how things work out for the remainder of the year. We're really looking at it as a trial basis in terms of to see how the students take to it, how much ridership we get. It is an expensive amount, and if we don't get the ridership, we'll have to take a look at that.
Well, that might be part of the marketing. Looking at Mrs. Hemstetter when I say this, and I don't mean it in an unkind way, but kids need to understand that this is a privilege or a gift or something that, we want to be long-standing, but it's like everything else. If you don't use it, we sure as heck can use that money somewhere else.
Yep.
And I think making sure all the parents know about it. I was talking to a parent last week and said, hey, I think we're going to be able to roll this out, and she hadn't heard anything about it.
Well,
So
we
just
didn't
making
wanna-
sure.
Yeah, we didn't want to put anything out until we knew for sure.
But I'm like, we've talked about this a few times here, and so I was surprised that she had no inkling that it was even on the radar. So making sure that
Just a reminder also that the cost for the late bus for the 3 routes is about $70,000. So if we
Right.
only have 10 kids,
Yeah.
Right.
that really doesn't make for a good allocation of dollars. So
Yeah.
the rest of this year will be a trial run.
It reminds me of what Mr. Johnson has said on a number of occasions, particularly about people who make noise about things they want in our school system, and then they don't support the schools. Here's a perfect example right now that we're pardon the pun here, gaining some traction with this. But if it's not taken advantage of, again, the school bus, we're cash strapped. $77,000 this, $100,000 for the feasibility study. It doesn't take long for money to disappear. So, again, I want to thank Mr. Wheeler, who put in the work to make the routes. I want to thank Dr. Couch for supporting the board as they explored this, and for the parents and coaches who stepped up and
absolutely
reminded us of how important this could be.
And I'll just add, Ms. Hemstetter, thank you for figuring out the nuts and bolts on the back end.
Yeah.
Because I know there's going to be some logistics there that everyone will have to work through. So thank you to your staff as well for looking at this. Any additional comments?
We could do it.
Okay, the administration is recommending approval to begin the KCHS late bus services beginning January 9th. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Ms. McGee has the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. Any further comments or questions? Okay, we'll call for the board member vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Mr. Wallace?
My vote is definite yes.
Okay. So we have board member approval, and we also have student member of the board approval. The motion passes as presented. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Wharton Playground equipment.
All right. So I had an opportunity to meet with Council Member Tim O'Brien, who's the council member for Ward 1. He came before the board and talked about the playground equipment at Wharton. They did have a chance to inspect the playground equipment with the town themselves, people from maintenance, and they feel that looking at it just just eyeballing it, they feel like they can take it apart. It's bolted into the ground, but they feel like they can take it apart without destroying the equipment. But in order to benefit the town and the community, it's really my recommendation that we surplus the Wharton playground equipment to the town. Now, they did indicate that once they get into it, if it looks like they're not going to be able to follow through without destroying the equipment, they would leave it as is, and they would not hurt it in any way. Once they remove the playground equipment, they will make sure that the area is filled in and it's nice and neat, and it's not just going to be a big hole somewhere. So they'll make sure that they fix that part of it as well. I talked with Mr. Constas, and we're going to come up with an agreement that will hold us harmless and outline all the stipulations that we just talked about so that it's very clear, and the town manager, I assume, would sign the agreement. And so once you agree to surplus the Wharton playground equipment, then we'll follow through with the agreement and then proceed.
Now, it's not the equipment.
It's the pre-K.
Okay,
It's the pre-K, which is right next to the bus depot.
right, okay.
Okay, this is an action item. Is there any additional comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. The
Need a motion?
motion. Call for the motion. Administration is recommending board approval to surplus the Wharton playground equipment to the town of Chestertown for removal to another location. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the surplusing of the Wharton playground equipment to the town.
Ms. Sullivan has the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for a school board member vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition. Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Okay. All ayes, the motion passes. Thank you, everyone. The next item on the agenda is policy KBA, volunteer.
Thank you, President Getz, Dr. Couch, school board members. Tonight, I bring forward our new volunteer policy for a second reading, which will be an action item hopefully this evening. As stated last month, with the Leads grant, we have been able to hire another HR specialist who is one of their primary responsibilities is serving as the volunteer coordinator. The purpose of the policy is really to streamline the process, to outline how we recruit, how we onboard, and how we assign our volunteers in each school. In addition, on the next item on the agenda, there is a procedure to complement this policy. Are there any questions or comments that we would like to talk through?
Okay, the administration is recommending approval of the volunteer policy KBA. Do we have a motion to?
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Maybe for Dr. Couch. So this is creating a new position, right?
Well, it's not creating a new position, but we have the position already hired.
Oh, okay. I guess I was wondering, did we have to find additional money to fund this, or did we have that in our budget?
It's funded out of the Maryland Leads grant.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, we're looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Costa. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the school board member vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No opposition on the school board member? School board member, yes. Mr. Wallace?
I also vote yes.
Thank you, sir. The motion passes as presented. Okay, the next item on the agenda is procedure 400-29, volunteer.
Yes, thank you. This item is for information only. It is being brought back a second time just to clarify a suggestion or to, include the suggestion that was brought forward last month. And if I can have Mr. Poor help me with pulling up the procedure so I can just show you what the change was. So if you recall page 3 under confidentiality, there was a suggestion made that, we should not restrict volunteers from sharing the high-quality practices of some of our staff. So we just struck that out, so that is no longer included. And that was the only suggested change that we had.
Okay, this was for information only. Are there any additional questions at this time?
Just want to make a comment. Again, time and time again, folks will come to us as school board members and say, well, I want to volunteer, and they ask the same question over and over again, and I give them the same answer, well, you need to reach out. So hopefully, the community is seeing that we are listening and really trying to put into practice, allowing them to come in, so there cannot be an excuse for people not wanting to come and run to the school system. They have now this opportunity. We have the supports in place. So hopefully this is more for the public. And thank you all for this, but that people will come and actually stop talking and actually be involved.
And we also are having the application put on our website under the employment tab.
Great.
But just as clarification, being a volunteer doesn't mean just roaming the halls.
Exactly.
It means coming in with a purpose.
And that change was updated on our application as well, where both the volunteer and the school principal have to sign off on a statement of intent.
Okay, that was for information only. The next item is policy KK school visitor.
Thank you. So this is a new policy as well. This is being brought forward for the second time as well. It is an action item. There were some small changes that were made prior to last month's meeting that we highlighted in red. And this just outlines what the school visitor policy is. Again, it is to streamline, it is to focus on school safety, it is to ensure that there are no disruptions to our school or to the learning that is taking place inside of each and every classroom. Any comments or questions?
Okay, this is an action item. The administration is recommending approval of the new school visitor policy. This is policy KK. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move that we adopt this school visitor policy.
I'm sorry, just for clarification. This is for F, correct? Policy KK school visitor, not for E, procedure 429.
No, that was for information.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to clarify. Okay, so we have a motion by Dr. Costa. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Sullivan. Any further comments or questions? Concerns? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition on the school board member side. Mr. Wallace?
Another yes.
Another yes. Thank you very much. The motion passes as presented. Thank you, Mr. Hushin. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
The next item on the agenda is the media selection policy. Sorry, I saw the volunteers. Apologies.
Good evening, President Getz, Dr. Couch, members of the board. Tonight, I bring to you for information only a report to review the media center materials selection policy and also an attached reconsideration request form. I would like to just hold up for your visual. We have always had a policy for our media selection materials. However, it was never digitized. So we are now moving it to a digital format, and you have a copy of it, along with some updated minor revisions. One of those pieces includes adding the reconsideration form, which I would also like to hold up. This has always been available and part of the training for our media specialists. It is a binder that includes the process for reconsideration of books. This form includes an opportunity for any parent, teacher, or student that would like to fill out the reconsideration form, and it begins at the school level by making the principal aware and obtaining a copy from the principal of the form. The form will then be submitted to the Director of Teaching and Learning, myself, and I will then work with our committee. And the committee has a group of teachers that have expertise in this field, including literacy teachers, media specialists, and administrators. So it's a well-rounded group of people that are well-versed in selecting materials, both for the Media Center as well as completing the book reviews.
Am I correct, Ms. Giacomo? It's that the form is not for community members, correct?
That is correct. So if you do not have someone currently attending Kent County Public Schools, that form is not available. It's obtained through the school principal for those that are.
And anyone who submits a form, will they get an outcome response once the process has been completed?
Thank you for asking that. So one of the very first things that will happen is as soon as the principal submits the form, that person will get a reply just stating that their form has been received. And then as spelled out in what is now part of the policy, this piece had always been part of the handbook, but now we've built it in so that the public can view it as well. It just spells out what is that reconsideration process. So they'll be notified that their form has been received.
Thank you.
One of the other pieces is just showing an example of the updated language of the policy. For example, number 5 in the Media Center material selection originally read that such books on human development may be brought when they present facts in an objective and dignified manner appropriate for the maturity level of the students. Such books on open shelves, and this is the original language, can do much to help young people develop wholesome attitudes. And so that has now been updated to read, such books on open shelves serve as a portal to different life experiences and encourage empathy and social emotional development. And again, our instructional team has been charged by our superintendent to regularly continue to update our policies and procedures. And tonight, we bring you the changes to this one for review, and we'll come back next month requesting approval.
So if a book, I won't be here, but if a book is taken off a shelf, okay, so we just get rid of the book and it just goes away. Does it go to a hub? So I guess I'm saying, say a student checks out a book, and this is a hypothetical, but anything can happen. A student checks out a book, and it's one of the controversial books, and then someone down the line says, I think I want to reconsider it, whatever. What do you do with that book that the student is reading at the time? Do you just say, oh, we pull it, or do we let the student continue reading the book? And, I know this is a very, stretch, but I see this, this animosity when we start thinking about the reconsideration. I'm glad we have some good frameworks and things that, how does that happen when they're in the middle of that text and that comes up,
I think one of the things that we've learned in researching current policies and procedures on this topic is that the intent is not to pull the book from a child's hand, but to really be aware of exactly what is the area of the book that is of concern, and immediately, in a timely fashion, address and make a decision. So that is something, again, that the reconsideration team stands ready and will do it in such a timely way so that we're not, again, the intent would never be to yank a book from a child, but really to be mindful of, is there something that in some way would be harmful? And that's something that would be the purpose of that reconsideration team. There is a very thorough process that is in place that goes into the book selection at the school level. So again, I think we can have great faith in the work of our library media specialists and know that they have a process they follow, beginning with award-winning books and moving on and considering a number of factors that are all outlined in our procedure and our policy. And I think with great confidence, something like that would not happen.
And these can be books that are not necessarily new, correct? These can be books that have been on our shelves
True.
for
Right.
years.
So is there a possibility, speaking of reconsideration, let's say there's a book taken off our shelves. Does that book taken off our shelves ever get a new life and get put back on the shelf?
So that's a great question, and there is a time period described in here. Let me see if I can find that exact. Once a book is brought to the reconsideration process, it may not be processed again for 3 years.
Okay. I got it. But after 3 years, could it be revisited?
Mhm.
Okay. This is probably getting way into the weeds, but is there a list somewhere of books when they get taken off our shelves?
I'm not aware of any books at this point in our school system that have been removed from our school shelves.
Okay.
I have checked with all of our media specialists.
Permanently.
And, right, that have been permanently removed.
Okay.
The books that are under,
Consideration.
right, at this point have all been given the opportunity to have the form filled out so that we can form that committee and go through that process exactly as described in the procedure.
Okay.
And what about classroom books? I've seen, a lot of classrooms have books that kids can read and take out. Is that the same procedure, or do teachers just make a decision for themselves?
We have an approved curriculum with required readings, and those books are vetted. Teachers can supplement at their own discretion, and when and if a concern is brought to the attention of a teacher and/or administrator at the school level, they will then work together as a team with the district, and in times when this has happened in the past, we have been given provided an opt-out form and provided another book that child could read if that's what it comes down to. However, I will tell you, in my years of doing this, we can count on one hand the number of times where the concern has been so elevated that, we couldn't make sense of why it would benefit the child to read that book. The parents can see that it would be a great experience, and again, as we've described tonight, and we heard so profoundly described by Julie tonight and Rebecca, I think it shows the thought that goes into the books that are selected.
I guess to tap on, I don't want to be the dead horse here, but tap on to what Dr. Costa said. So what do we do for just a classroom library that a teacher sets up and says, I know, again, more into the weeds, but I think it's important because I don't want to say we're walking into some sort of uncharted territory, but it kind of feels that way because we have now over politicized books in this country, and for no particular reason. And I've asked, members of the community to point me in the direction of where these things have been taught, point me in the direction of the concerns, and you've yet to get anything. So that means to me that there was never a concern. It was just a whole lot of smoke. But who am I? But my concern is a teacher says, I want to start my own classroom library, reach out for donations, and some of those books that maybe come in are ones that people don't want. And what kind of autonomy, then what are we saying to our teachers on their autonomy to run the classroom the way they want? So are we saying that now anytime new books come in, we'll have to start checking for, to make sure that those books aren't in place, I feel like that just kind of puts our teachers in a box, and I don't feel comfortable with that. But again, who am I?
I mean, I will say that we trust that our educators are making sound decisions, and we monitor that through our observation process, both formally and informally. And again, as you're describing, having taught in this district for over 30 years, I can tell you that personally, we may have had 1 or 2 times where someone has expressed a concern about a book from the elementary side, scary stories to tell in the dark, and then you take that story and you break it down and you read through that book and talk about the lessons that can be learned. And I think, again, I agree with you, there must be some autonomy for teachers to be able to make that decision, and we have smart teachers that know what they're doing in terms of developing meaningful classroom libraries. Does that mean this is going to be without a mistake? Absolutely not. I'm sure there will be something along the way where we have to stumble and take a look and maybe even make a different decision. But that's going to be, a risk that we will have to take.
Thank you.
Okay, this was for information only. As read, the policy will be presented at the January meeting for Board of Education approval. Are there any other questions before we move on? No? We're good?
Dr. Costa, thank you for being a champion for literacy, and Nivek for our local history. I appreciate it.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the expenditures revenue report. Ms. Stewart.
Good evening, Dr. Couch, President Getz, members of the board.
Good evening.
Before I get started, I want to say that it has been a pleasure, Dr. Costa and Nivek, to work with you all. I believe I've been working with you all since I have started in February 2020 with Kent County Public Schools, and it's been such a pleasure. I'm definitely going to miss both of you. Continue to be an advocate for Kent County Public Schools, and we definitely want to see you back. And if there's anything that you need from me, feel free to reach out to me anytime. All right, so we're going to start tonight with the monthly revenue and expenditure report. This is as of from July 1 to November 30th for 2022. We'll start with our cash receipts. For our Fund 1, which is our current expense, we have received to date about $16.6 million. We get to our Fund 3, school construction, about $2.4 million that we received, and Fund 5, which is our food service, about $786,000, and Fund 7, no receipts. So bringing us a total of cash receipts of $19.8 million. We go to the next page. This is our current expense funding. This basically shows what has been expended to date. As you would know, the highlighted column is our the encumbrances plus the year-to-date expenditures. Most of the encumbrances are encumbered salaries, but you can see on the column to the right the percentage of each category what has been expended. And for current expense is about $22.1 million that has been expended. School construction, it's about $4.7 million that has been expended. I always want to just note that school construction is a reimbursable fund, so therefore, whatever is expended out, we do receive back. Sometimes if a project is not done in the prior fiscal year and we're in the new fiscal year, it's still accounted for. It's just not noted in fiscal year, for example, in this current fiscal year, if we did start work in the prior year. When we get to our food service, we've expended about 67% of that. With encumbrances and expenditures, that's about $850,000. And then with our restricted funding, about 26% we have expended based on what we have received to date, and that's about $4.5 million that we have expended. And the last page is just there for your review as a summary to bridge everything together. Any questions?
Can you go back to page 2? I just have a question about student health services.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious about the budgeted versus what we've spent so far, and why the disparity that we're only at 39%. expenditure for student health service? What does that include?
So for student health services, that is going to include the nurse agreement, the contract with the nurses. Portion of that, the nurses, the RN nurses that are at the Rock Hall Elementary School and Garnett, they're being paid out of concentration of poverty, and therefore the rest, remaining nurses are being paid out of local funding. So that's probably most likely why they're,
Coming out of that bucket instead of this bucket? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, that was for information only. If there are no further questions, we'll move on to the unrestricted funds budget amendment number 1.
All right, so tonight, I'm requesting board approval for budget amendment number 1 for fiscal year '23. There has been some updates within our local budget that we need to adjust and update the funding sources for. I'll start with special education. As you all know and are familiar with, we do receive money from the state of Maryland for non-public placements. We always budget at $100,000 originally in the budget, but then we wait until we get the notice of grant award, which is called a NOGA, to receive what the funds that the state is actually going to award us. So for fiscal year '23, the state awarded us $120,000, so we're going to need to increase our special education budget, the revenue and the expense side, by $20,000. There you will see where it says state share current expense, $20,000 increase. And if you go down, you will see the $20,000, it is in there for special education, but I will expand why there is a negative there. So that's the first thing that needs to happen. Then in instruction, due to the CAP program that we are now, in a sense, taking care of with local, the funds were set aside in contractual charges, and it totaled about $297,000. Going through that transition from contracting CAP out to bringing it to local, netting against the invoices that we had to pay because we still need to use their services, I believe, from September to November. It brought remaining balance of $264,000. So it was split between instruction and special education. So $132,322 will be decreased from the instructional, other instructional costs, and then that same difference is going to be decreased from special education, hence why you will see the $112,322. And all of that will be increased in instructional salary because that is to cover the CAP program.
Will we continue to break out CAP salaries from instructional salaries so that we see?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That will be the plan going forward. And then the last in capital outlay, as we know, we have aging schools. Originally, we were awarded $38,292 for what was budgeted for fiscal year '23 for aging schools. They're allowing us to carry over the funds for prior fiscal year. And so the update is the carryover amount is $52,965. That needs to be added to that $38,000, which will now bring a total of $91,257 in aging schools. So there you will see the increase of the $52,965 on the revenue side where it says other. And then at the bottom, you will see the increase of the $52,965 with capital outlay. And so we
just
are-
a reminder that is the funding that we would be using to repair the tennis courts.
Okay.
How many students do we have in non-public placements this year?
Right now, it's about 2 or 3.
Is it at the Benedictine school? Where are they?
That I don't know off the top of my head.
Dr. Keene just left, so I don't know.
Okay, this is an action item. The administration is requesting board approval of the unrestricted funds budget amendment number 1 for the fiscal year 2023. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the unrestricted funds budget amendment number 1 for fiscal year 2023.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sullivan. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. Thank Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Appreciate that. Thank you.
I also want to thank Ms. Stewart for doing such a great job on the audit.
Yes.
Getting a clean audit is no small feat, and I know it's a lot of work, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the comprehensive maintenance plan. Mr. Wheeler.
Sir, good evening. Good evening, Dr.
Good
Couch, President Getz, and other board members. I wanted to give you a brief summary of our comprehensive maintenance plan. You have to excuse my voice today. Spent the weekend in Pittsburgh at the Ravens-Pittsburgh game, so you got to excuse my voice. All right? This is going to be a little rough here this evening, just letting you know, forewarning you. All right, so tonight I'm bringing it to you for review and hopefully come back next month for approval. The comprehensive maintenance plan is a written plan approved by the local Board of Education that describes a strategy for maintaining public school facilities. Annually, each LEA shall submit to the IAC a comprehensive maintenance plan. Our plan outlines the jobs and responsibilities of all key players involved in our overall maintenance plan. It establishes the procedures and hierarchy of our county maintenance structure. It also gives a breakdown of our maintenance issues as well as the average percentage of time spent on various maintenance within our buildings. It may be expected or planned for as well as unexpected issues that may arise. Our plan also includes our maintenance projections for the next 5 years. I would like to highlight, and it's funny that it was brought up earlier tonight, but I would like to highlight that within the next 5 years, the plan is to refurbish and repair the tennis courts at Kent County High School. Any further questions?
How often do you, just curious?
Go for it.
How often do you?
It's the last time, right? I'm sorry. I had to. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
How often do you get maintenance requests? Like, is it do you see like an uptick at different times throughout the year?
Every day.
Every day. I mean,
there's different maintenance requests, and it could vary.
Okay.
I mean, it could vary. At this time of year, it's funny. It could be 70 degrees one day, and it's 40 degrees the next day. So you have maintenance requests where it's too cold, it's too hot. It's just this time of year. But there are different maintenance requests. Just about every day, we're getting maintenance requests from each one of our buildings, and central office as well.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it's interesting, I'm reading the paragraph objectives of maintenance. The primary objective of the maintenance program is the maintenance of buildings and grounds and fixed equipment through repairs or replacement during the 40-year life expectancy of the building. Every school building is more than 40 years old. Well, and Millington Elementary is and it's 50, and it's the youngest of the buildings. Yes. What was Millington, I mean, but yeah. So the middle school's twice that.
Yeah.
Right.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Okay, are there any additional questions?
I have to say.
Go for it. Go for it, sir.
We do have, as Dr. Costa, we do have some of the cleanest facilities in the state of Maryland.
Really do.
We really do.
Yeah.
So,
and ever since I've stepped into this position, like I go into other, we go to other counties, and I look around, I look in corners, and I look around, and our buildings are clean. They look good. They don't look like they're the age that they are. Our custodians, our maintenance, our guys work hard. They really do. I have to give it to them.
Awesome. So just as a point of clarification, Mr. Wheeler mentioned that it would be presented tonight and brought back
But it
next
is for
month.
approval.
But
It's for
the
approval.
action.
Approval tonight, yes.
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
I want to be very clear that the action
Okay,
item,
I
it is an action
apologize.
item. Supervisor of Operations recommends the approval of the comprehensive maintenance plan. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the comprehensive maintenance plan.
Mr. Johnson has the motion. Do we have the second?
I'll second.
Ms. McGee has the second. Do we have any additional comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the school board member vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition. Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
We have a yes for the student member of the board. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. The next item on the agenda is donations, and I see Ms. Stewart coming back up. So thank you.
All right, so I'm back to you, board members. This is we received a couple of grants and then a donation that we are bringing to the board tonight for your approval of the new grants and then acceptance of the donations. I will go through, as you can see, we received a grant. It's a nursing grant through the Kent County Health Department. It's $49,500, and it's here to support, it's provided to support school-based nursing services. Then there was a WKHS disparities grant through Kent County Health Department as well that was awarded $8,000 to assist 18 awardees, and those 18 awardees are listed in this memo. And then we received a music program donation for Galena Elementary School. The funds we received were from Denise Stevens in the amount of $1,000 to support the music program at Galena Elementary. So administration is requesting board approval of the grants and acceptance of the donation received.
Great. As Ms. Stewart just mentioned, the administration is requesting board approval. Do we have a motion to do so?
So moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Costa. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the school board member vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hear no opposition. Mr. Wallace?
I'm in favor.
We have another aye as well. The donations motion is passed. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the COVID-19 fund overview.
All right, so tonight I have before you pretty much a snapshot, and this is a snapshot of all the COVID-19 funding that we have received. 15 different funding sources. You will note the amount that we were awarded, the amount that has been expended to date, and the remaining balance, and their grant end date. For the majority of our awards, the first three, we have pretty much the first four, 4, 5, 6. We pretty much expended majority of these funds. They have had specific service purposes that we have adhered to. The remaining funds, two of our bigger pots, is ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. I wanted to present to you all raw data of what has been expended. This is not data that includes anything that's pending or anything that will be future related, but I will say, given ESSER 2, with the pending, what we have discussed and have went through, it's about $480,000 that will be remaining. That amount that will be remaining is going to be towards summer school and the summer school program to have that for summer of technically 2024. I think that's how they say it, even though it's pretty much this summer. And then ESSER 3 is about $202,000 that will remaining after all pending things, and those items are in learning loss because ESSER 3 has the components of learning loss, and ESSER 2 really was the purpose for it was to address summer school. The other was the American Rescue Plan, which you will note that it has an end date of December 31st, 2024. So they're specific to their needs. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire packet, but the packet is there to show you the actual budget justification for each one. Now, the budget justification that I have attached is the most recent. So whatever amendment we just got approved for our ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 amendment, so attached is the budget justification for those grants. So if you have any specific questions for a grant or that type of thing, feel free to ask.
In most school systems, got some sort of these same types of monies.
Yes.
And these were to help benefit the school systems to reopen and do all that.
Yes,
kind of-
the only funding that, funding source we did not get, we did apply for it. That was the GEAR competitive grant that came out. After the GEAR funding grant, we didn't get that, but other school systems did receive that.
And none of them, I have to ask these questions because, these things come up.
It's okay.
None of this money was used to, say, force people to, we're getting paid to make sure students wear a mask. This was to help benefit the students and really, really just help the learning loss and really help support.
Yes.
Okay.
So I will say for the timeline of this, when ESSER 1 came out, it was really restricted. As more funding sources became available, the restrictions lifted because now you pretty much had to recode and, you have the money to spend, but the grant end dates are ended. Like, for example, ESSER 2 originally was supposed to end 9/30/2022, is now ending 9/30/2023. And as time went on, we definitely stuck to whatever is the purpose of this grant, that's what we stuck it to. If it wasn't allowable, I had no problem with saying, no, this is not allowable, you can't. You're going to have to find something else. So this was really tailored to COVID expenditure related funding.
Thank you.
Okay, this was for review purposes only, no action was required. So thank you.
I would just like to give a shout out to Ms. Stewart for this. Takes a tremendous amount of work as far as following through the money source, following through what we've expended to date, and then showing this in a usable fashion that you can read it and understand it. And it just takes a vast amount of work, and I just want to recognize her for that.
Thanks, Dr. Couch.
Great. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Maryland Leads Grant update.
All right. So I have an update for you as the board for the Maryland Leads budget. As you know, initially, Maryland Leads, do want to say, is not operated and function like our other restricted grants. It is totally unique. It is totally different. The main purpose of Maryland Leads was to implement something that we never did. That was the purpose. We couldn't do anything that we were doing with local funding or any other restricted funding. This was completely supposed to be different. Initially, it was explained to us that, for example, the partners that we have, we would only receive the funding for our local expenses through, not local expenses, but what we've put in for Maryland Leads through that way, and then the partners, MSDE would pay for them. So initially when we got the NOGA and it was lower, that was the thought process that was going to happen with the partnerships. But then we worked with MSDE. We were not the only county that pretty much went in with the $1.5 million match, because how a match, my experience normally works, a one-to-one match is if you say they're going to give you a $100,000 grant, the company themselves are going to do $100,000. Or if there's an in-kind match, let's just say you have personnel that works for the school system and there's a grant and their piece of their job assists with that grant. That's kind of like in-kind match. So this was pretty much different. The understanding when we went back to the state was that if we were to match 1.5 million, they would give us 6, and not if we match 1.5 million, they would give us 8. So we have corrected that. Most of that we have went back, and I do want to note this is the original budget that we had at the $8 million with the 1.5 match, giving us $9.5 million. We went back to the table and we were able to shave, I believe, $400,000 that we found out that we weren't going to need assisting with meeting these strategies. And the remaining, it was about 1.1 million that we were able to use through ESSER 3. Now with recoding that, I do want that to be stated. We were strategic with that because we made sure anything that was in Maryland Leads that could relate to learning loss was recoded to ESSER 3, which was then approved by MSD.
Right, and I think this is important to note because there's a lot of misinformation out in the community that we had to take it out of the operational budget, that we actually had to come up with another $1.5 million and we took it out of our budget, or we had to take it out of fund balance. That was not the case. We were able to go back into the ESSER grant and say, this can be attributed to learning loss, so that could be part of our matching. So we worked really closely with MSDE to make sure that occurred, so it did not impact our operational budget whatsoever.
Yes. So this I will take time to go through. What you see in red bolded are the items that we removed. And those items, some of them we have removed. A couple of those items we were able to move into ESSER 3. But whatever is in red and bolded, that's what we removed. What's in green, which is Great Minds, and that's bolded, that is what was added because Great Minds was a partner that we needed to use for instruction for the science of reading. There's also the Wilson Foundation, so that pretty much shows you what was reduced in order to meet our budget.
What about the stuff that's in bold and kind of like gold or yellow?
So the items that are in bold, so that's pretty much my, the ones that's in yellow, that's just more of a detail. That's just me fancying up the spreadsheet. But the items that are white and bolded, we reduced amounts. So we still needed the item, we still needed supplies, the service, but we actually reduced that amount. I will go to say that we're in strategy 2 with staff support and retention. That is now fully being, both years is now coming out of ESSER 2. And I know we removed the stipend for and Grow Your Own to provide paid internships, so that was removed.
And you were able to use basically the exact calculations, only flip it into ESSER?
So, yes.
Okay.
Most of, with ESSER, some of the contractual supplies and some of the positions that we were able to pull through there, but it was still the same process.
Okay.
So it's this is was, and the thing with Maryland Leads, we found out, I believe, like a month when everything had to be due, and then there were constant changes after that. So for example, we're going to have continued budget amendments. So one of our partners is YMCA, and let's just say YMCA invoice us. The process is we have to send the invoice to MSDE. Well, YMCA will, or the partner will send the invoice to us to review. We send it to MSDE. From there, MSDE will review and pay the partner directly. Then we have to come back and do a budget amendment to reduce our budget by that amount. So it's, like I said, it's very, 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 very unique. And it's something that is supposed to be different to reach our students with these strategies. And there's things in place that we have to do that's separate to make sure that we're meeting these goals. So that is it. If anyone has any questions or anything specific to Maryland Leads that I can answer.
I just wanted to say, just looking at some of the stuff within this budget it's a lot of great tools, and again, really can't wait to see where Kent County can take these, some of these staff supports and those instructional supports and even supports to our teachers and the Grow Your Own. I think we're on to a good path here in Kent County, and really thank you and the team for your hard work in making this happen.
Are there any additional questions? That was for review purposes only. No action was required. So, Ms. Stewart, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the student member of the board legislation.
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Wallace asked that this item be brought back for board discussion and a possible action item.
Mr. Wallace, did you want to speak too?
Yeah, so basically, I met with Delegate Jacobs, as you guys know, and he said that if we continue with the current wording, that student member of the board may not be invited into closed session. That would basically mean that the student member of the board would never be able to, not like you mentioned that you could probably let them in if you needed to, but according to him, that wouldn't be available because it says not invited. So I was just hoping that we could propose a change to what the majority of other school boards use, which is like unless invited by an affirmative vote of a majority of the county board, the student member of the board may not attend executive sessions that relate to, and then blah, blah, blah. So it's just keeping it open enough that if by some chance the student member of the board needs to come in, they're allowed to by a vote, and not just like the wording currently that's just like you're not allowed to come in at all. So that was just what I would like to be discussed.
My understanding of having anybody outside of the board come into closed session is that the board can determine and invite anybody that they feel needs to give testimony during closed session, which would also include the student member of the board. And I still feel strongly that there is nothing going on in closed session that a student member of the board would need to be a participant in. And that's my feeling on it.
I guess my thinking, could you give me some rationale about talking with your other colleagues, other SMOB colleagues, how many of them have ever had to invoke during their time since sitting on the board to go into closed session or just be a part?
Well, since the different roles of student member of the board are vastly different across the different counties, I have some SMOB friends that go into every closed session and that are allowed to whenever they want to. I have some that come in whenever they need to, whenever they feel like it's useful. I think if I were to be allowed to, it would be beneficial if our SMOB could come under, if there's something that like happened in the school that or the SMOB was in there, like they were actual part of that. So it's just like a different, it's the story from the actual student instead of from anywhere else.
But what I would argue back is that that is not a closed session discussion. We would never be talking about an issue about a school in closed session, like something that happened that occurred in the school. That's not a closed session. That's not an allowable closed session discussion. So I think you'd have to come up with a different example, because we would never be discussing anything like that in closed session, because it would be against Open Meetings Act.
Well, I was just under the impression that last year, the senior member of the board came in too, so I was just,
No. No student member has come into the.
or like by invited, so I was just, it just makes sense to me to keep the language open just in case, even though it probably never will happen, just to keep the language open as possible, just for the sake of it being open.
So, Dr. Couch, you had created the language, correct?
Well, what I did was I looked at based on what you all talked about in terms of what you wanted to be changed on the education articles, put something together, had legal counsel look at it, Mr. Constance looked at it. We made sure it was, a go, and then I presented that to you at the board meeting.
Okay. So there are any additional comments?
I would just say, I know there are very precise exceptions to being able to go into a closed session. Personnel, real estate, contracts, things like that.
Collective bargaining.
Yeah, those are never the kinds of subjects that a student member would ever be brought into. The whole nature of a closed session is confidentiality. So I can't think of, and so I would like to be enlightened if Mr. Wallace can give an example of one of your one of your SMOB colleagues that went into a closed session. What were they asked to talk about?
Well, most of them just go in, a lot of them go in because they're allowed to, for that reason, but others went in for just different school events that's happened, and to talk about, there's this, I forget what it's actually called, but they just go in there and they talk about their experience with the actual school in person of
That's the kind of thing I would think that we would talk about publicly,
That's not a closed session topic, is it, Mr. Constance?
Well, right, as Board Member McGee noted, the reasons to go into closed are very specific and quite narrow under Section 3305 of the General Provisions Article, as Board Member reads out during the closing statement. So the involvement of the SMOB in a closed session would have to fit within one of those narrow topics that's discussed, that's permissible for a closed session.
Would it be the protection of privacy? I think it's exception number 2. Would that?
Protect the privacy or reputation of an individual with respect to a matter that is not related to public business. I don't know, it just doesn't seem.
That almost seems like it wouldn't be something that would even come to the board. If we had a question about something that happened in school, it's not our job to do the investigation.
Right. Well,
Just to go down the list that
Yeah.
you recall kind of talking about, B1 is personnel, appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, as board member gets routinely reads that off. Any other personnel matter. 2 is the protect the privacy or reputation of an individual with respect to a matter that is not related to public business. 3 is real property. 4 is matter that concerns the proposal for a business or industrial organization to locate or expand or remain in the state. And again, these are closed sessions for more than just school boards, so many of these might not apply. Consider the investment of public funds, marketing of public securities, consult with counsel to obtain legal advice, consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation, conduct collective bargaining negotiations, discuss public security, if that discussion would constitute a risk, if that public discussion would constitute a risk to the public or to the public, including a number of sub-reasons below that. Prepare, administer, or grade a scholastic licensing or qualifying examination, conduct or discuss an investigative proceeding on actual or possible criminal conduct. I mean, there's more, but you kind of get the gist of where I'm going. They're very specific.
Sorry. Does the proposed language in any way limit or prohibit the board from inviting a student member of the board or anybody else at our discretion to provide a statement or testimony during closed session?
It says the student member may not attend executive sessions / closed meetings of the county board. May not. I mean, I suppose there was I'm trying to think of a reason why the student would be there, and I'm having a hard time.
There's no reason. I can't see any
That's
reason.
a policy decision as well to make.
So we have 2 options. We have one option to accept the language that was given to us at the last meeting by Dr. Couch, the way it stands, the way it was written, or we have the other consideration of changing that language. If the second consideration is what we'd like to do, then we would need to entertain a motion to make those changes.
What would be, I just want to make sure I understand, what would be the change in the language from what is written here if we were to make that change?
Change it from may not to unless invited.
I think it'd be a slippery slope. After a while, it would be, why hasn't the student member been invited to closed sessions? And
Most likely.
that's what would happen. I think it's, when you think of a policy, you have to think of it in the future. It's not just about this particular student member, but whoever may come in the future. And all a student has to do is be indiscreet about something that happens at a closed session, and this board could be sued and probably lose the suit. It is, I can't think of any other states that do this kind of thing. And if I lived in a county where students, 17-year-olds, are in closed sessions dealing with highly sensitive personnel matters, I'm surprised they haven't been sued. I think we would set ourselves up to be sued.
I think I'm not saying it's an issue, but I think one of the things about us that makes us really unique is that we're so small. And there is a lot more pulse on personnel issues. You take a Baltimore County, Montgomery, Anne Arundel, you're thinking like 100,000, 200,000 folks, and you can't really see the everyday scope of those people. So I think we're in unique. I would be interested in just seeing what SMOBs in counties like Garrett and Somerset and some of our smaller counties, how they would address what is written in their statutes of the law book as well. I'm just curious. I don't mean to make you.
I think we should vote on it tonight.
Yeah, so we have 2 options. As I mentioned earlier, we have one option to stay the course at the language that was presented at the last meeting, or we have the option to make the change. If there is interest to make the change, I'm looking for a motion to make that change. If we do not hear a motion, we will not move forward with the ask.
Yeah, I just think that you guys are looking too much. I just want it to be open, like, if invited, not just like, you're allowed to, like, send them out and just whatever. It's just, as long as you're invited in.
No. I vote against it.
Is there a motion to make changes? Hearing no motion, the language that was presented will stand. Okay, we'll move into public participation. Just resetting the clock here, I think we do have, yes, we do. Rules for public participation. Speakers should limit their comments to 3 minutes. Comments about the actions or statements of individual staff members are not appropriate for public comments and should be referred to the superintendent of schools or processed through available channels. If submitting written testimony, speakers are requested to provide a copy to the president. Please remember that this is an opportunity for the community to address their comments to the board. It is not an opportunity for dialogue. If you have questions that need an answer, please contact the superintendent or write a letter to the Board of Education. A response will be sent back to you. I have Mr. Fluke. We'll time for 3 minutes, and at 30 seconds, I will notify. Thank you, Mr. Fluke.
So, President Getz, school board members, Dr. Couch, a couple of topics. I'll be brief on each one, but the dedication ceremony at Garnett was outstanding. It's already been commented on this evening. It was a culmination of a process that started here. I've enjoyed attending the meetings and seeing that process all the way through, and congratulations on the outcome. Congratulations on the late bus. I think that's fantastic. It enables students who can't otherwise participate in after-school activities, including sports and other activities. It enables them to participate, so it's a great move. I want to commend all of your comments and the comments of the earlier speakers on books. I love the quote, "We trust librarians." I certainly do. And finally, I want to acknowledge the service of Dr. Costa and of Mr. Johnson. I want to acknowledge the moving and inspiring words that they spoke. I want to commend them for their service to the Kent County Public Schools, to the students and families of Kent County. And I just want to acknowledge the well-deserved comments that everybody else has made. It's been a pleasure attending school board meetings. I know how hard you all work. I really want to thank all of you, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the notification of the next meeting. The next meeting of the Board of Education of Kent County will be held on Monday, January 9th, 2023, beginning at 5:30 p.m. with the open session. Open session will be immediately followed by the board members going into closed session. The open session will resume at 6:30 p.m. This meeting will be located at the administrative building in the boardroom, this room, at 5608 Boundary Avenue, Rock Hall, Maryland, 21661. And the last item on the agenda is that the administration is recommending approval to adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Before we adjourn, I just want to reiterate the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting is Thursday, January 19th at 5:30 p.m. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have one last motion and possible second by outgoing board members, or do we just want to open it up to everyone?
No, it's not.
I move that we adjourn.
Mr. Johnson has motioned to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Dr. Costa. Any further comments? Questions? Hearing none. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.